Another really important thing to understand when kind of creating bass lines here is using chords in first inversion. That is putting the third of the chord in the bass. So let's take the example here of an A6 chord, moving to an E chord, moving to an F sharp minor, the 6th chord, or an F sharp minor 7 if you want. Okay, so we could do it how I just played it. There's our A6. I could play the E, this shape right here, the chord fragment, and put the E in the bass, and then go to the F sharp minor here. Could do that, and that's fine. But if I put the third of that E chord in the bass, the third being the G sharp note, the third of E, then we have this nice, smooth, connecting bass line. Right? So A6, E over G sharp, the third of the chord, and I'm playing that with my thumb usually to play this shape, moving to an F sharp minor or F sharp minor 7. So then we have that nice descending bass line. Another really good example of this would be going from a 1 to a 4, both dominant chords here. So say I have this A7 and I want to get to the 4 chord, and I'm going to play it as a D9 here. Well, what's the third of the A7 chord? It's the C sharp note. And I would play it right here, and that's going to lead me right to my root of my D chord. Now you don't necessarily even have to play it in the chord. Like you could play it separately as a passing note, leading right to that 4 chord. But it works because it's the third of that A chord. So always look and see if you can use the third of a chord in the bass, and a lot of times that will create a really nice flowing bass line. Alright, another really effective technique, but is super easy, is just alternating between the root and the 5th of your chord. So let's take this chord progression right here, an F major 9 chord, moving to an E7 sharp 9, moving to an A minor 7. Okay, so like we found out before that if you have a root of your chord on the 5th string, the 5th is directly underneath it right there on the low E string, that C note in this case. Now there's many different ways you could do this. I mean, you could just experiment with it. If I'm playing kind of something in a more of a funky feel, I'll just touch on that 5th of the chord really briefly most of the time. Something like that. Play the open E there on the A minor chord. By itself. Root, 5th, right? Go back. 5th. Could play the 5th of my A minor here as well. Another very important technique that you definitely want to use in your bass lines is using some chromaticism. So let's take that same chord progression we were just playing and now approach some of these chords chromatically. So I could say approach that E7 sharp 9 chord from below, from the D note, using the passing note, the D sharp, to get to the E. So pretty much any space that we have in between our scale notes, you know, a distance of a whole step usually, but sometimes even a step and a half, we can move between those notes using the passing note in between. So I could play the F major 9 here, and move from the D to that E7 sharp 9 chord. I could do the same thing moving from the B note down to the A for the A minor 7, or up chromatically from the G to the A. Let's see what those would sound like. this chromaticism is really gold. I mean, take like, say, a really standard jazz blues progression, maybe a 1-6-2-5. Walk up chromatically from that E to the F sharp, the 6th chord. Move down into the 2 chord. Just walked it down from the C sharp to the B. And then move it down chromatically from the F sharp to the E, the 5 chord. And one last technique that we definitely don't want to skip is using the tritone. So what is a tritone? Well, basically it's a distance of 3 whole steps. So let's take this E7 sharp 9 chord here. What is 3 whole steps either above or below that? Well, it would be the A sharp or the B flat. Okay, now on the guitar, normally if you're playing a root on the 5th string there, and what we have is this E7 sharp 9, you would probably play that B flat right there. Okay, now you're going to use this when you are, most of the time, when you are leading from a dominant chord into a minor chord a 5th away. So say this E7 sharp 9 chord, and next up is your A minor chord. You can use this tritone of the E as a passing note, and that's going to lead you really nicely into that A minor chord. Always going to work if you are using this from a dominant chord leading into a minor chord a 5th away. Okay, so let's see what we did that in that jazz blues a second ago. I can use these tritones. Where I had that 6th chord, the F sharp, what's the tritone of that? Well, if you have a root on the 5th string, the tritone is always going to be down on the low E string, 1 fret below. That's just a handy little trick to find it. There it is. Going to lead you right into that next chord, the B minor. And then you have it again, going from that E down to the B flat tritone to the 1 chord.